Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Ravideep Singh, and I'll be your moderator for what promises to be a thought provoking and an actionable conversation. Now, I know there is no shortage of AI talk that is happening around us, but today we are not here for the hype. We're here to dig deeper into how intelligent agents can actually scale, not just theoretically, but in real world business environments. We'll explore how to do it efficiently, most importantly, strategically, and with measurable ROI. And I'm thrilled to be joined by two powerhouses who bring in their unique perspectives to this space. First, we have AS Yamo. He's a practice director at Everest Group. He's been at the forefront of global transformation trends and brings invaluable market insights. Think of him as the radar guiding us through the bigger picture. And joining him is Atul Sharma, Vice President of Salesforce Practice at Grazitti Interactive. Atul brings it all down to earth, offering the practitioner's perspective. He's the one who kind of ensures the ideas, they don't just sound good in slides, but work at scale in the real world. So, you guys, whether you're here to sharpen your strategy, get inspired by what is possible, or just challenge the way you're thinking about intelligent agents, this session is for you. Let's dive in. We've got a packed and a purposeful agenda ahead of you. We'll start by grounding ourselves in the bigger picture, like why real-time AI agents are a necessity in today's enterprise landscape. Next, we'll unpack the real story behind DIY AI, from hidden costs and stretched timelines to the risks that often go unnoticed. From there, we'll shift our focus to Agentforce, Salesforce's native plug-and-play solution that is rapidly becoming the backbone of intelligent service delivery. But having the right tool is only part of the story. You'll also hear about how to fine-tune Agentforce for maximum business impact and what it takes to align it with your goals, data, and teams. And finally, we will be wrapping it up with a closer look at how organizations they are customizing Agentforce their way with Grazitti's expertise to scale outcomes faster and more intelligently. So, without much wait, let's get started. Yamo, we're seeing a shift where intelligent agents, they're not just supporting service, but they're starting to drive it. But is it truly at an inflection point, or are we still in the hype phase? Like, what's the real scale and pace of the enterprise adoption today, Yamo?
Thanks, Ravi. And we'll approach this in two ways, right? One, we'll look at how the adoption has been in the past, and two, how it is expected to be in the future, right? Our latest research shows that 73% of the enterprises have already started exploring agentic AI embedded business applications, and even a striking 87% of them plan to adopt agentic AI in some format by 2028. And more importantly, what we need to look is the current adoption levels, right? Towards the right, if we see the overall conversion from proof of points to production, right? So what we did was many often enterprises have in their mind, okay, a lot of them may be POCs in these times, right? That's where we went into and deep dived on our research to identify what's the ratio of POCs getting into production. And that's where we got an astonishing scale POCs, right? In 2023, it was 15%, but in 2024, it was 2x. 30% of all POCs went into production, right? And it's not just in terms of the conversion overall, but also that there is a 5.8x jump in overall production deployments, going from 350 to 2050. So what we're seeing clearly now is an inflection point that the market is moving or shifting from an experimentation to scaled adoption of AI for focused use cases.
Right. Well, that's quite a jump. Kind of talked about there. The the macro signals, they're clear. Intelligent agents, they're moving from optional to imperative. Atul, what is your take on this?
Well, I think that's pretty interesting, and I think Yamo 5.8x jump in production use cases is pretty significant, which I agree. We are also seeing that on the ground itself. I think till last year we did not have lots of AI agents that we were building, but as of now I think we are starting something or building something or implementing almost every week. So we are clearly seeing a shift on the ground, and obviously the scale of opportunity is pretty huge that we are seeing. Now, as you can see, the agentic AI product market itself is projected to grow to around, I think, $7 billion by 2028. Now, that's a massive growth that's there, and it's more of a structural momentum that we are seeing. Now, gone are the days when enterprises were actually just curious about AI agents and were just doing POCs earlier. Now, I can see in every customer budgets for the whole year, they are actually budgeting specifically for AI agents. They're actually designing things around it, and they're building all the ecosystem around this to help them support and scale their AI implementation. Now, while the today's market I know is fragmented, we are moving towards a period of consolidation and maturity, where a few robust platforms will actually dominate, which will be scalable and easily customizable for different GenAI use cases. Now, in general, I can see earlier enterprises were actually just trying out different AI agents, but now they are moving from one-off GenAI use cases to adopting autonomous agent that can deliver value across different departments. If I talk specifically about Salesforce, so they want agents that can cover the scope from services, sales, any other experience cloud, or even for their operations, admins, and all of those. So in a nutshell, I would say we are at a point where I think early adopters can easily gain an outsized advantage, and the market is moving very fast. I think as far as the agents are going, they're moving very fast, but I think even the implementation maturity is also catching up pretty quickly across different partners, as we are seeing here.
Right. I completely agree, Atul. The growth story is pretty compelling, but the execution story still feels a bit early. So, let's go more deeper here. Yamu, according to you, where are enterprise teams struggling when it comes to building and scaling these AI agents?
Sure. So we are in a phase where AI and agents are all across the CXOs board, right? But what some of them still admit is that they still need some more clarity in terms of chasing these. Many of them suffer from AI fatigue, and they have heard promises, seen demos, but are unable to effectively map the ROI and prioritize use cases, right? Now, one where the real gap is, I see, is enterprises, instead of chasing the hype cycle or FOMOs, they should take a first principles approach, right? And that's what works for all, and it applies for AI initiatives as well. And at Everest Group, taking into account the first principles, we recommend a 2x2 prioritization approach. And this would help in the leaders to identify the high priority use cases, not just the most impactful ones, but also the most that would be feasible and fitting for the enterprises. So for this, we have the assessment on two axes, right? On one axis, we have the potential impact, which is in terms of the overall revenue generated, the agility and optimization that's developed, and three, what's the overall stakeholder experience that's being enhanced, right? On the other side, this is where the ease of adoption or feasibility or fitment comes into play. And these are factored into with cognitive and generative complexity. What's the complexity of these technologies required to automate or enhance the workflows? Two, in terms of data availability, right? And this becomes very critical. Right, I see one question in the comment box as well. What's the one mistake that typically enterprises enterprises rush into implement AI, right? Typically, it's this one rubbish data that goes in will give rubbish insights, right? So, data readiness and data availability becomes one of the topmost priorities for enterprises, and that's where the mistake kind of happens. And the third one is in terms of criticality, or which are the highly critical tasks and processes that would require attention. And overall, coming up with the assessment that would put all the useful use cases on four clear zones. That would be in terms of accelerate, build, evaluate, and create. And overall, most enterprises do not fail due to maturity of the AI platform or tools, but it's rather a lack of strategy in terms of prioritizing the right use cases that have the right impact and right feasibility for them.
I agree, Yamo. So, given this current gap, Atul, once enterprises have that strategic lens, what does strong execution looks like? Where are the leaders going wrong? And what should they be doing differently?
Okay, great. I think so. Strategy, I always say, without a clear execution is just a wishful thinking. You just want something, but unless there is an execution around it, I think it's just a waste of time, I would say. As Yamo just highlighted, like when leaders are caught between urgency and uncertainty, the gap between what AI promises and what actually gets delivered, it keeps on increasing, right? Now, in our case, we have actually seen in our experience, there can be two common missteps that might be happening. One is teams try to deploy agents everywhere without a clarity of value. I've seen lots of customers buying lots of tools. In fact, within the same tool, there are multiple agents that they're trying out, but there is no clarity of value that they want to deliver out of it. And similarly, customers also feel that the AI systems are kind of plug and play. You just buy let's say a chatbot, and it will start solving your problems from the day one. But then what is actually missed is around the alignment with what the business model is, what the current data structures are, what the processes are, how the operations are working on day-to-day basis. So I think these are the major mistakes that we generally see. So in my terms, I think what the strong execution looks like is obviously you'll have to first start out focused. You have to figure out a very high leverage use case that should be there. And again, Yamo just shared a pretty good framework around it. So that can be a good starting point. And then based on those use cases, we have to make those testable, measurable, and operationally visible as well as viable. Now, building context-aware agents, I think it's not just technically sound, but integrating with your processes, languages, and KPI is equally important. Now, I generally prefer everything around data, and there should be some measuring around whatever we are doing. So I would always recommend for any of your AI initiatives that you should be ready to measure your key matrices around it, what you want to achieve out of it. Let's say, for example, on the support side, do you want to improve your resolution time? You want to improve your CSAT? You want to, let's say, contain the escalations that might be happening, or you want to reduce operational cost and all. So these are some of the matrices you can actually measure, let's say, upfront, even before you put in something. And then over a period of time, which we may talk about in the upcoming slides, that you can actually measure what were the outcomes that you were actually getting out of those execution of those AI agents. And last but not the least, but I think partnering with a good partner is also equally important, because I think the field, as we know, it's changing almost every day. There is something new that is coming in every day. So it's not just technical expertise that is at the stake here, but you also need someone who has lots of experience on, let's say, governance on top of the agents, let's say, or there can be different LLMs, and there can be lots of oversights, which even I have seen in my experience that we miss out on even measuring, okay, what might be the cost of implementing something on the LLM side, because the cost can move very quickly. So, and again, there can be lots of continuous improvement that you might need in your AI agents. So I think whatever you decide, make sure you have a right partner in place who can help you in figuring out all these details around any implementation.
Well, certainly. I mean, as you kind of said, like we don't want to boil the ocean, right? Like where everybody is deploying the agents everywhere. And I think it's really important, that we have the smart partner, as you just called out, Atul. So that's also pretty critical here when choosing who we are partnering with. So, as the organizations, they look to adopt these AI agents, one fundamental decision often arises early, right? Should you build this in-house or just leverage, a platform like Agentforce, which is already there? Like, what are the strategic and operational trade-offs each path presents? Yamo, if you can maybe share your thoughts there.
Sure. I think choosing between DIY agents and Agentforce really comes down to the clarity of purpose, to the extent of customization required, the time to market for the solutioning, including time to value as well. And the other aspect is also the cost of flexibility, right? And maybe I'll try to deep dive within this. While DIY provides more room to customize from ground up, and it may even initially seem relatively cost effective, but it comes with relatively higher investment, right? Be it time, talent, the risks associated with it, execution, compliance, and scalability. DIY agent demands an enterprise grade architecture data readiness. And that's where most of the enterprises I mentioned earlier as well kind of underestimated, right? You need to build out the secure data pipelines, real time interference layers, orchestration logic, the memory, and all the fallbacks. Like, these are all even right before you connect to the CRM. And that's where some of the challenges of DIY comes in. And one of the key is most often from a timeline perspective, it takes a longer cycle than the market benchmarks, typically 1.5 to 2x overall, right? So while building an overall AI, it becomes important to reshape the operational models, securing the right data, rethinking the user journeys, and also to align the right stakeholders. However, if we need to look at it more from the other side, right, that's where the equation shifts towards Agentforce, which fits better from a faster time to value in terms of all the use cases which are already tested in the market, the native connection with Salesforce, with all the core clouds and others, right? So that's where Agentforce comes out with its advantages in the market as over the other users.
Right. Atul, from a systems and architecture perspective, what do you see as the technical implications, like when we go this DIY route?
Absolutely. I think the biggest challenge, which I know of DIY AI projects, and I've been involved in some of those, is around actually designing a scalable architecture that can actually seamlessly integrate with complex systems, let's say Salesforce as an example, or any ERP or any other. So all of these systems, they have their own data models, they have their own objects, they have their own way of handling authenticity, your maybe data latency, or they have their own APIs, or even within the APIs, they have models to connect with other APIs. Let's say, for example, in Salesforce, you have MuleSoft that you can use to connect to other third-party systems. Salesforce itself has its different clouds as well, so there will be different use cases also around it that you have to cater to. So there are lots of complexities in such ecosystems, and then if you add let's say on top of any such implementation, let's say compliance, your observability, your controls, your testing frameworks that should be there, I would say you are easily looking at 1.5 years to just get stable pilot out of it. And this would actually cover everything, including your infrastructure setup, as well as like I said, data governance earlier. Now, in contrast to a very recent study that is also mentioned here, Agentforce actually took just around 4.8 months to move from strategy to full deployment. In fact, in my experience, I have seen it move much faster. We have done it within 6 to 8 weeks as well for some of our customers, and now things are moving even faster with the recent updates. So this stark contrast that is looking here, you can clearly see that there are technical and operational hurdles that DIY team faces, and those challenges are actually solved by Agentforce out of box. So you don't have to do your data harmonization, you don't have to put in your security frameworks in it. Lots of these things are available in Agentforce out of box. So DIY, maybe I think during the starting it may look flexible, it may look more controllable, but then very soon they start dragging down time, budget, and once you're not seeing much output, I think the morale of the overall team and the stakeholder also goes down with all these solutions that are there. Now, I think my team has seen all of these scenarios firsthand, and we actually know how to help businesses out there. So I think on Agentforce strategy and planning side, we have been generally analyzing business needs first, and then we define the key objectives and the success matrices that are needed for these AI agents. Then we develop the actual roadmap, how much time it will take, what all is needed, what all systems would be there. And later on, we actually align the stakeholders with a clear and actionable plan to derive the successful outcome out of these initiatives. So I think by doing all this, instead of waiting for 1.5 years, like I just mentioned, for even a stable pilot, our customers would actually start seeing impact very soon, as soon as 6 to 8 weeks, like I mentioned earlier.
I mean, that's quite a save in terms of the time savings overall. I guess when we're looking to get things implemented in a tight timeline. Yamo, can you share Agentforce's advantages over DIY solutions and just kind of outline what the implementation process involves?
Sure. So overall, I think Agentforce, the key is built on Salesforce, right? And its native integration with all the core clouds of the likes of Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing, Data, MuleSoft, that stands out right of all. Two, in terms of the extended ecosystem that Salesforce itself brings, I think in the recent repos as well, Salesforce extended its all the technology alliances, right, with all the hyperscalers, the data vendors, all. So that becomes second, right? And three, there are no disjointed systems or middleware overall. And the next one is also in terms of the trust layer, right? Typically, when it comes to data and AI initiative, typically enterprises end up asking, hey, where is the trust and how do we avoid bias, toxicity, and data leakage? That's where Agentforce again stands out with its own Einstein trust layer as well. And overall, this results in a truly enterprise-grade AI infrastructure with the high market credibility as well. And if we look back till Q2 2026, Agentforce has closed over 5,000 plus deals, all the tested case studies, and it has over 60% of all of them are paid customers, right? Many of them come and ask, hey, can these be premiums? Can I get this for free? But if you look at the data, I think 60% or more are actually paid customers, which account for even nearly more than half of all Fortune 100. And from our outlook as well, the overall Agentforce services market or the opportunity where we see it to be is over a $5 billion opportunity by end of 2028, right? And this kind of shows in terms of the overall credibility, scale, and the enterprise impact that Agentforce will have overall.
Right. No, definitely. I think the noise is already there. Salesforce is making out there. So thank you, Yamo, for in that clear overview. Atul, building on that, could you just maybe walk us through the practical aspects of implementing Agentforce? Specifically, like what should organizations expect in terms of the deployment efforts? What is going to be the timeline here, and what steps are critical for the overall success?
Sure. And I think before I answer that, I can see one question in the chat where it is being asked that, okay, whether MCPs will actually lower the time frame that is needed for these DIY solutions. I think I agree. Wherever there are lots of different systems where they are talking to earlier, wherever we were used to like writing all those integrations custom or using some ETL tools like maybe MuleSoft or some other, some of the time would be cut down over there. But I think all of the reference that I was even giving earlier, that was even when you are within a same system. So within Salesforce itself, the system is pretty complex. And I think MCP comes to a later stage. That's an additional, I would say, complexity. What is feasible with the MCP ports that the system is opening, what is not feasible, what all the governance layer that I was talking about, even on that system as well. So it eases out the integration pain for developers, but then it brings in its own complexity. And again, since MCPs are just I think taking shape. Even for Salesforce also, it's still taking shape. So I think we are not aware of lots of nuances that would be involved for different systems that are out there. That being said, coming back to the original question that Ravideep you asked, I think so like Yamo also mentioned, Agentforce's native Salesforce architecture actually starts with a very strong foundation for your AI agents that you have to build. But again, the success will still require the careful execution that I was mentioning earlier. And this actually means integrating with your CRM data pretty well, all your external systems, whether via MuleSoft, Data Cloud, or MCP, like this I mentioned. But then Agent Builder that is there actually helps you do quick deployment of all these bots or agents. And then you can easily customize using the out-of-box tools out there in Salesforce, whether you're using Apex Code, your flows, or even APIs if you're talking to some other system. Now, implementing these AI agents also involves ongoing training and tuning, and based on user interaction and feedback. Maybe I think it may take more time or less time, or even maybe the costs may keep on increasing. Now, at Grazitti, I think we have actually try to turn the business plans into a phased plan. So we receive a requirement, we'll convert that into a plan, and then it would generally have a clear milestone, with each milestone catering to different steps. For example, let's say integrations, let's say your data quality, your API limits, or if there are legacy systems involved, what are the system constraints and all. That being said, answering the original question, that initial deployment may take just 4 to 6 weeks, like I was mentioning earlier as well. But then there will be lots of continuous improvement that would be needed to optimize both the AI performance as well as adoption of these agents. Obviously, we can handle all of these end to end, just building the AI agents, building the Apex actions or customizations, your flows, any UI components where you want to embed these agents, and again, obviously, automating the whole process that is out there. So this approach that we generally take actually helps you accelerate the ROI, seeing the impact pretty quickly, and will help you avoid any common pitfalls that would be there due to, let's say, the siloed agents that I was talking about earlier, or maybe delayed value that you are getting based on, let's say, all these DIY initiatives.
Right. Thank you both, for clarifying how Agentforce's native Salesforce integration and a structured implementation plan, it actually accelerates the deployment. So, as organizations, they look to justify the AI investments, ROI becomes the most critical conversation. Can you walk us through how to evaluate ROI from intelligent agents like Agentforce? What's the tangible return rate are, and what companies should be tracking here, Yamo?
And I think there is a question that was there in the chat box, and I think that straight towards this slide as well, right? How to validate that your agents are making the right decision, not just working fast, right? So that's where this comprehensive analysis of benefits becomes critical, right? The ROI of AI isn't just about faster processes or cheaper operations. It's about structuring and understanding the full spectrum of benefits and costs, right? And if you look at the cost angle of it, it goes beyond just the technology cost, right? What's the overall data cost? Typically, data-related initiatives become standalone for AI, as I mentioned earlier. Right? That's where the cost intended also comes in, and the personal-related costs, overall operational and compliance costs, right? And the other aspect that we need to look at is cost not at a point in time that it may incur over a timeline as well. So on the cost overall map, and two on the side of benefits, right, going beyond cost savings or the productivity improvement in terms of doing something faster, that's where we need to look at some quantitative and qualitative aspect, right? One, what's the incremental revenue that these processes could generate? Can the AI agents help in influencing a newer revenue stream, or engage one customer better correctly the way that the customer wants? So that can help in incremental revenue generations, right? These are the KPIs again needs to come in, and a few additional KPIs which may be qualitative is also in terms of stakeholder experience, right? Can this enhance beyond just the customer? Can it even increase the stakeholder beyond customer to include even sometimes the employee as well, right? And any competitive advantage that the solution can bring in. So all these put together will help in mapping these benefits, right? And having the cost and benefits, doing the right analysis over a timeline will help in decoding the right ROI for these initiatives.
Thanks, Yamu. You've helped clarify what ROI looks like when measured, across experience, productivity, and speed. But many organizations, they still equate AI adoption with plug and play success. So let's talk about what comes after deployment, right? What are the less obvious factors that organizations often overlook when measuring ROI from Agentforce? Atul?
Yeah, I think you rightly mentioned that people expect ROI from plug and play AI agents, and that's a common misconception. I feel that ROI actually will begin as soon as you deploy, that I mentioned earlier as well. That's not just the case. It's to my opinion, it's just the starting line that is there. The value from AI will actually accumulate over the period of time when the systems are actually used, refined, retrained, and even scaled for bigger use within the organization. Cost of delay, obviously, it's one of the most overlooked lever after the post deployment. So let's say if you miss a quarter of deployment, you'll actually see lots of, let's say, you miss lots of leads that might have come in, or you might see your agents being burnt out with loads of work, and maybe one might be overloaded, one might not be loaded at all, or even your service quality is not improving over the period of time and your competitors might be going over a time. So I think cost of delay is something which is not measured as such, but then you can actually see the impact when you actually implement something which actually starts generating value. And that's where we generally see that early adopters actually gain improvements. And again, these improvements will keep on increasing and keep on accumulating over the period of time. In general, I would say there can be like low-hanging fruit, which can help you, let's say, get the ROI upfront. Let's say if it is a short term, if I just talk about, let's say, a service example, so you can, in the short term, immediately you can start seeing with the Agentforce implementation, less triage time on a case. So there can be lots of things that can be provided to the agent upfront, and could actually help your agent to gain confidence as well as get guidance on what need to be done immediately. So lots of reduction in the triage time. But in mid-term, let's say over a period of quarter or so, you will actually be able to measure that what's the impact on the CSAT based on this AI initiative that you have taken. And also, let's say another example can be, let's say, a first call resolution time, how much it has reduced. So this would actually help your agents also, so they don't need to extend, don't need to follow up. There are not like 2 or 3 iterations that are happening. So it's good for customer, good for your agents as well as your operational maturity. Now, on long-term perspective, I think, and which is generally a short-term perspective for people, that how do we reduce the cost per agent, but that would actually be a long shot. When you do all these things, you'll actually automatically see that revenue per agent is actually improving, or your escalations are decreasing. You're improving your retention, your strategic ROI will actually keep on improving. And these can be, let's say, a 6-month or 1-year measurement that might be there. But I think without these clear benchmarks against the timeline, so I think people actually struggle to distinguish between what are the incremental improvements and what are the transformational improvement, which are the long-term ones. So you actually need to, again, know when you have to course correct or pivot based on the results that you are generally getting. Now, ROI tracking in general, I would say, often focuses narrowly on service matrices, but AI, I think it's easier to measure over there. But in general, AI impacts all the other areas within the CRM. If I talk about, let's say, on the sales side, it can improve your, let's say, quality of lead. It can qualify those better, give the better, I would say, or relevant prospects to your sales team to work on. And within the deal age as well, there can be lots of things that can be done to improve the deal progression or reduce the age of the deal. Similarly, on the service side, I think there are lots of examples that can be there. On compliance side also, we are seeing our customers asking us to build agents on Agentforce around compliance, so that there is very less manual review of things that are happening. And again, manual is always prone to errors. So is AI. I'm not saying it's perfect, but again, based on right tuning and all, I think the escalation volumes themselves will actually keep on decreasing over the period of time. Now, I would say AI success in general is not binary. It's not 0, 1 or something, but I think you can easily find out your success by finding out, okay, did AI actually preserve your customer intent? Did it actually reduce friction? And did it actually avoid your escalation? And similarly, it can be measured based on, let's say, all the behavioral signals that are coming in, the sentimental shift, the confidence scores, or the resolution markers that are happening based on these AI agents. So I think, all of these pointers will help you measure the success of the initiative. Now, cost predictability is another often that is overlooked, but it's actually critical, which I mentioned earlier as well, that you never know what action of yours will actually immediately raise the cost of LLMs that you are using. But with Agentforce, I think that's why we actually generally advocate the native AI solution, because one, you don't have to index everything again and again. You are reusing the CRM data it's built natively on top of your Salesforce. So you're actually referring to the existing data that is there. It actually reduces the infrastructure cost that is there. You don't need separate infrastructure, you don't need separate DevOps in there, and you just have to manage just the licensing of it, maybe just light retraining if needed, and then there are lots of built-in guardrails and governance that are there, and then you can use those inherently within the Agentforce. So yeah, I think that's in a nutshell. I think I would like to cover on the ROI drivers for Agentforce.
Right. Thank you, Atul, for putting that all together. I mean, most of the organizations, right, just think of this customization as just tweaking configurations, right? But when it comes to Agentforce, does customization becomes a competitive strategy, Yamo?
Good question, right? And to even address this, right, typically a services market is more than the tech market, right? And that shows how important this service is on top of a technology. And overall, yeah, true performance doesn't come from off-the-shelf solution, but precise engineering or customization overall, right? And that's where it leads to overall the services market or the services business as well. Typically, an enterprise that spends X dollar on a technology and enterprise business application end up spending somewhere between 1.5 to 3x in terms of services. And that shows in general on an average the amount of services that is required to precisely engineer any software. And this is where having the right service partner becomes critical to achieve the right overall business outcomes, right? And typically outsourcing, leveraging service providers are done for a few of the key parameters, right? Few of the reasons that enterprises approach. The first thing is the overall cost. Outsourcing typically helps them in optimizing these services costs through nearshoring, offshoring options, bringing in the right talent who can deliver a set of solutioning faster. Two, it also helps in orienting towards performance and outcome. As Atul mentioned earlier as well, right? To have the outcome governance frameworks and everything, it actually helps to have the right service provider who can guide and to also hold accountable partially in mapping these outcomes. So it's not just a third-party provider for the solution, but rather the right strategic partner who can guide the enterprises in putting together the governance and the right overall outcome. Three, a service provider will have the business or the industry contextualization to having done it for many other clients, right, in similar industries and others. So that's where the industry best practices and technical expertise as well becomes critical. And one last thing I want to touch upon when it comes to leveraging a service provider's capability is also in terms of the IP assets the service providers bring in, right? All the tools and accelerators. Typically, if an enterprise needs to do it in-house by themselves, it becomes difficult, longer, and risky. That's where these IP assets and everything help in accelerating overall. So while overall Agentforce does bring in a good foundation and platform, it's the right customization and strategic partner who can guide that will help you in crafting the right solution for the enterprise.
All right, Atul, coming to you, we've actually seen that the real value of Agentforce is not in just deploying AI, right? It's in shaping it around how a business actually runs it. A lot of organizations, we speak to are still trying to figure out what real world AI use looks like in Salesforce. I mean, you've been on the ground with teams doing exactly that. So, can you just walk all us through what you have done and what kind of impact they've had?
Yeah. I think we've done more than 20 plus Agentforce implementations out there across different clouds. It can be sales, service, experience, or any other. And I think I can go through lots of those examples, but I think one thing is pretty clear that off-the-shelf AI alone will not work out. It has to work the way your business works or the way you work on day-to-day basis. And what actually drives ROI is the precision with which the agents are actually trained, grounded, and tuned to specifically work how your organization actually works internally. So like I mentioned earlier briefly that we generally take a full life cycle approach when we are doing Agentforce implementation, where we actually start with defining the right use cases that should be there. We help in designing and building the agents. We ground the agents with the relevant data, which can be, let's say, we're mentioning support. So maybe, let's say, past cases, your knowledge articles, if it is connected to Jira. So let's say your Jira tickets and all that to maintain the, or maybe account for the escalated and data as well for a case. So we feed in all those data, and then we customize the agents according to your workflows, compliance rules, as well as if there are any industry nuances, depending on what industry we are working for. And I think on the AI projects front, specifically on Agentforce, we have worked across industries, whether it's banking, healthcare, retail, manufacturing, you name it. I think telecom, we have worked for lots of these industries. Like you asked, I think some of the successful use cases or implementations that we have done is around, one is, obviously, there can be lengthy, I would say, chats, comments, emails on top of a support ticket that might be there. So I think we have done auto summarizations. That was done, I think, even before Agentforce was launched using these LLM tools, so that whenever there is a handover of the case to a different agent, or even for one particular agent, if there are lots of cases that they're working on, they don't have to go through the complete history. They can see that summarization at the top of it immediately. Similarly, I think on the AI front, one use case which is actually underlooked, but we have actually seen it's very powerful, is around detection of spam. And so spam has been a problem for lots of our customers, specifically who are in the B2C domain. In fact, some of our customers in the past have lost lots of money as well because of the spam that was happening on their, let's say, chatbots or even on their portals and all. In fact, I remember on one of the Experience Cloud implementation that we had done, one of the person, his job was just to review every day all the discussions that were being posted on the forum, whether they are spam or not spam. And spammers are actually use tricks, new tricks every other day. We even tried initially, before AI was in picture, we had actually tried to build a dictionary kind of thing. We'll actually, let's say, keep on adding words. For example, fraud is one word as an example. So we'll add fraud to the dictionary. Okay, if something includes fraud, let's say mark that as spam. But what if someone says F.RA. something like that? So the space or something. So you can't keep on building dictionary for every such word. So, but AI is pretty good at it. Even if you have written a pretty lengthy paragraph, but if that is more of a marketing or phishing or something, AI detects that, and it helps you save, I think, the effort that is spent by, let's say, your support agent, or even if it is your community, then keeping the community clean and engaging for your members. So I think that's one pretty good use case that we had implemented. Similarly, so the first example that I gave you was around the summarization of the case, but then we have also built timelines on the cases. So that's mostly applicable for B2B use cases, where there are lots of activities that are happening on a case, and the case age might be as long as even a month, because there are lots of activities that are happening. So we have actually built pretty nice AI driven timelines on top of the case itself. So again, that will again help you doing the faster context switching for anyone. We've also helped organizations doing AI based sentiment analysis real time, so that you can actually catch the negative conversation that might be happening. And again, real time can be on chat, can be on email, or anywhere else, even on the conversation that might be happening on your support portal or community. So which can actually help you improve CSAT pretty heavily, because you can actually bring in right experts. Let's say if L1 support agent is not able to handle it properly, it can immediately get escalated to L2, so that they can chime in immediately and see why there is a negative sentiment that is happening on all these conversations. If I talk about the standard Einstein features that Salesforce was giving, we have actually done case classification, case wrap-ups, which actually helps you, let's say, automatically fill in lots of data that might be there on the cases based on all the historical trend and the way Einstein actually learns based on the data that you feed into it. Similarly, we have customized and enabled knowledge suggestions that Einstein gives, the reply recommendations that gives. In fact, we have our own utility as well around reply recommendations that can be happening, even the chatbot itself. So like Yamo just mentioned, that working with a partner, there can be lots of accelerators that can be already there with you, that can help in your implementations and all. But yeah, I think most, like I said in the starting, most of these solutions were actually designed around how each team works, how each organization work. I mentioned two examples, B2C versus B2B. But within B2C or B2B, there is a complete complex world that are there. Not every implementation is similar. So they were actually designed according to your systems, your specific gaps, your target outcomes that you want to get. But I think our unique value generally lies in not just implementing, but actually it's around how do we customize and shape it around your business logic, your compliance requirements, and any industry specific standards that might be out there.
Right. I completely agree. I mean, especially for the support customers, I agree. The case summarization can really help, agents kind of do their jobs even better, especially, these last few words that you talked about. So thank you so much, Atul. I mean, that's a really powerful look at what is possible when AI is grounded in real business workflows. So Yamo, hearing what Atul just kind of walked us through, how should the organizations think about scaling this success across organizations? What does it take to go from isolated wins to enterprise-wide intelligence?
I think what Atul walked us through is a great example, right? What a strong execution looks like. But what we often tell clients is isolated success is just a good starting point or a stepping stone for enterprises. If you want to take these agentic or AI wins and scale them across functions, the question that they should ask themselves is not what works and what to replicate, but what should scale, right? Which ones to scale and which ones to leverage across the enterprise to go beyond one function. So when enterprises ask how do we scale Agentforce, it's not by copy pasting use cases across teams, but rather investing in a strong foundation for AI, which is scalable in design, touching upon all the earlier parameters that we talked about, right? The data, the architecture, and all the applications, and even the hyperscaler platform. It's more of an overall technology landscape that they would need to build. And that's how they would move from an isolated efficiency or a siloed efficiency to an overall enterprise intelligence.
No, that's a really important perspective, Yamo, and it kind of echoes what we are seeing in our own implementations that we have done or what we are doing currently. So, once the foundation is in place, the real opportunity is scaling it thoughtfully, right? And I know you and Atul kind of talked about this in the previous slides. A lot of teams, tuning in today might be asking, after the first successful use case, what does it take to go further? Atul, you've been hands-on with teams as they move from early wins to fully deployed agents. Can you walk us through a few examples of what that actually looks like in practice?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. We built lots of accelerators around Agentforce, and I think one thing is that all these purpose-built AI agents on top of the platform like Agentforce, they can actually easily solve the bottlenecks that might be disrupting your day-to-day flow. But then it removes the bottleneck without disrupting your existing flow, and that's where I was mentioning earlier as well. We'll actually generally design it according to your business processes. So some of these purpose-built agents that I would talk about is, let's say the first example here is the SKU manager. So which actually helps you validate a SKU in the real time, remove duplicates if needed, suggest any SKUs that should be there on an opportunity or a deal itself. So removes lots of hard work for the sales rep, because in general, what we have seen is that over a period of time, the SKUs keep on getting complex. Every customer needs a different kind of product or SKU. So the sales reps would generally keep on creating new SKUs for every customer. But with the SKU manager, it will actually help you decide between, okay, whether you need this SKU or there is something that is already existing that you can reuse using AI agent. So that's pretty helpful for the sales guys. We also have Synergify agent, so it's not just I would say accelerator, but it's actually a full-fledged product also listed on App Exchange, which is actually help you integrate between Salesforce and Jira just based on your prompts within a window. So you can actually escalate a case to Jira. You can actually track the progress within Jira, or maybe before even creating, you can try to find out, okay, how many Jira tickets which are similar to this case or has been escalated in the past. Just show them all. So all of that just based on some prompts. You don't need all those custom interfaces. Similarly, we also have built a meeting evaluator, which is basically whenever a sales guy is actually taking a customer call, or even a support guy as an example, taking a customer call, those notes that are there from those calls, they can actually easily get synced back into CRM in the form of transcript or summary, depending on how you want to put it and where your data storage is. And then based on that, someone can actually auto evaluate these conversations and see how these goes, instead of like someone, let's say a manager or executive, going in and reviewing and listening to all these calls. There's another product that we built recently around Socklify, which is actually more for admins and devs to streamline lots of their work on day-to-day basis. It can be as simple as, and not just admins and devs, I would say even for sales ops guys within an organization, where they might be, let's say, creating flows or maybe even creating test classes on day-to-day basis, writing code and all that. All of those can get automated using Socklify. Then on the sales side, we have lead enablement, which I briefly talked about earlier. We have account segmentation, which can actually help you segment your accounts and segment them based on, let's say, key patterns that are specific to your business and key behaviors that can be there. And then it will actually help your teams to target the right customers pretty fast. So one of the example like you asked about, I think we recently worked for one of our customer, specifically on the support side. I'm trying to highlight that this customer had pretty long resolution cycles and there were lots of manual effort, lots of escalations that were happening, and again, the end-to-end visibility was pretty opaque, because I think the length of the conversations that were happening on the support ticket itself was like huge and complex B2B organization. So we actually moved all of that from reactive to a proactive service delivery. The manager or someone is not getting updated as soon as something is burning, right? So there are proactive indicators that were going out. You can actually generate the timeline that I was mentioning earlier with just one click on that case itself. The sentiment can be automatically found, and then even the AI agent that we built will actually help you draft emails automatically based on the sentiment that is ongoing on that support ticket. And obviously we had also set up the escalation alerts that were there if it is already happening. And the result was pretty amazing. I think we could immediately see the efficiency of the team improved pretty significantly. Almost 20% is what the customers themselves reported for this particular initiative. It actually helped not just on the matrices, but it actually helped coming back to the strategic and the value adding work that they were doing instead of doing just the repetitive work, and which actually generally results into agent burnout. So these examples actually emphasize how Agentforce agent actually drives operational efficiency and strategic focus by embedding deeply into someone's business processes.
Got it. Thank you so much. I mean, that's a lot of AI empowered information, Atul and Yamo, that you've kind of empowered us, all of us today. The takeaways that we're kind of taking from this session today. With that being said, I know you kind of answered some of the questions along the way with limited amount of time that we have right now. So we can still see if there are any questions that are unanswered. Seems that we've kind of taken all. So folks, that brings us to the end of today's session. And what a conversation it has been. A heartfelt thanks to you, Yamo and Atul, for walking us through, the what and how, from uncovering high impact use cases to understanding, what makes Agentforce work at scale. This was a masterclass in turning agentic AI from potential into performance. And to you, our wonderful audience, thank you for showing up with such energy, curiosity, and thoughtful questions. I'm sure this session was worth the time, whether you are at the beginning of your AI journey or already building with Agentforce. We hope you're walking away with practical ideas and maybe even a few next steps you can bring back to your teams. So we'll be sharing this session, recording and additional resources pretty soon. And if you're ready to tailor Agentforce to your business DNA, team at Grazitti is always here to help you out. Until then, thank you once again, and here's to building AI that delivers real outcomes. Thank you, everyone.